In the last couple of videos, we covered basics of testing, PHP unit, and wrote some unit tests. We also did a bit of refactoring where we used dependency injection instead of hard-coded dependencies to make testing easier. In this video and the next couple of videos, we're going to cover dependency injection in more detail along with dependency injection containers, auto wiring, and reflection API. So what is dependency injection? The formal definition from the Wikipedia states that in software engineering, dependency injection is a technique in which an object receives other objects that it depends on, called dependencies. That sounds about right, so let's see the problem and how dependency injection solves that problem. As you can see in here, we're hard-coding these classes in the constructor where invoice service class is responsible for creating the dependencies. This creates tight coupling, makes code harder to maintain and harder to test. Instead of invoice service class being responsible for creating its own dependencies, we can invert the flow of control and pass the dependencies via constructor. Dependency injection basically is a form of inversion of control, or in short IOC. IOC is a general principle and can be applied to many things and not just dependency injection. With IOC, the flow of the control is basically inverted, where instead of class newing up its own dependencies and creating objects, it's inverted so that the outer code is responsible to provide the dependencies to the class. There is a great article about inversion of control that I'll leave the link in the description, so check it out if you want to read more about it. There are different types of dependency injections like setter injection, method injection, and so on. This one is called constructor injection, and that is what we'll be focusing in this lesson. As I mentioned before, dependency injection, along with many other benefits, makes it easier to write tests. For example, in the last lesson, we were able to create test doubles and pass those as dependencies instead of the original classes, which made testing much easier. We could also make use of interfaces, and instead of accepting concrete classes as dependencies, we could accept some implementation of an interface, which would allow us to swap out the implementations easily as needed during runtime. Okay, now that we understand dependency injection, let's see what role dependency injection containers play. Let's zoom out of the invoice service class and move one level up where we need the invoice service class itself. This can be a controller or any other class that needs an object of invoice service class. Let's say that we have an invoice controller with a store method that processes invoice after user submits a form. So basically, user fills out a form with some information, and we're just keeping this example super simple and are just using name and amount fields. But of course, in a real application, it would be a lot more fields like credit card number, billing address, and so on, but that's besides the point. The store method is where we need the object of the invoice service class because we need to process the invoice. So we're creating a new object of invoice service class here, but because we have to pass down the dependencies manually, we're also creating these dependencies and are passing them down. So do you see the problem here? While invoice service class is loosely coupled and uses dependency injection, the controller is tightly coupled and we're still hard-coding the dependencies, but now in addition to hard-coding these three dependencies, we're also hard-coding the invoice service class as a dependency itself. Also, what if payment gateway service had its own dependencies like a logger of some sort or maybe an API abstraction and so on? We would need to create these dependencies as well and pass them down. So we would end up with something like this, which looks even worse. And to be honest, this is not that bad. In most applications, you will have classes that have dependencies with its own dependencies and so on. The nesting of dependencies can be pretty deep. Okay, so let's fix this problem and use the dependency injection in the controller as well. So now we are accepting the invoice service class in the constructor and our store method looks a lot cleaner. But now the question is how the controller is instantiated. We surely need to instantiate this object somewhere higher up in the tree, right? Because with dependency injection, at some point somewhere higher in the tree, we have to new up these objects and pass them down properly. It won't just magically work unless unless of course you're using a framework like Laravel, and we'll talk about that magic later. So we need to zoom out again one more level to see where the controller instance is created. So let's do that, and if you remember, we created a basic router class that handles the controller resolving part, which maps routes to controller actions. So this is where technically controller instance is created, and we can't really pass the hard-coded dependencies here because other controllers may have different dependencies or may have no dependencies at all. But let's forget about the controller or the router for a second. Even if we had a way to pass down dependencies, the issue would still be the same, where we would be manually creating all these dependencies and passing them down manually somewhere higher up in the tree. So now you might be screaming, what is the solution? Get to the point. The point is, this is where dependency injection containers come into play. Dependency injection container, simply put, is just a class that has information about other classes, which allows us to replace this with this. So if we need an object of invoice service class, we simply ask the container to give us that object and have the container figure out how to resolve the dependencies properly. There are different methods and ways of implementing dependency injection containers, but there is PSR 11, which is designed to provide a guideline or a common interface that can be implemented into frameworks, libraries, and code bases. So we'll do that in the next lesson and implement the simple container. In the next lesson, we'll see how container works, how to implement the simple version of it, and so on. We'll also cover things like auto wiring, reflection API, and how IOC container works in Laravel as an example. So stay tuned because lots of interesting and fun topics are on the way. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. It really helps me out with the YouTube's algorithm. Also consider subscribing if you're new to the channel to make sure that you don't miss any of the future videos. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.